Okay, I want to go over your Greek quiz that you just recently took. And let me first just say, by way of encouragement, I'm encouraged by how you guys are plugging away at this with great tenacity. You are striving hard to get the language. And I recognize that, even if not all the quizzes are perfect, that's okay. I see that you are wrestling through this, given the way that you're asking questions and given the kind of mistakes that you're making. It does appear that you're really wrestling through what this means. And I'm encouraged and optimistic and hopeful that you will come out of this semester knowing the language well. For the amount of time that we've had, and especially given all these interruptions that we've had, you are going to come out of this knowing it well. So, what do we have here? Well, I'm not going to go over the questions that everybody got right. Here's one that was missed a little bit. And it's really important that we recognize it, because we're going to start talking about passive voice shortly. And the question is, which of the following sentences are passive? Now, it's the one that's marked here. That's the passive one. But let's look at how these sentences work and see how this one is different than all the others. Notice in all the others, the subject of the sentence is the one that performs the action. Tom hit the ball. Who's doing the action here? It's Tom. He's hitting the ball. And the ball is receiving the action. The ball is being hit. If we want to turn this into a passive sentence, we would say, the ball was hit by Tom. Now here we have another sentence. Again, Tom is the one performing the action. Tom hit Jim. Now, with the ball is a prepositional phrase. It's not essential to the sentence grammatically. We could just say, Tom hit Jim. That's a complete sentence. Now, what did he hit Jim with? Did he hit Jim with his car? Did he hit Jim with a baseball bat? No, he hit Jim with the ball, hopefully by accident. Now, this is a different kind of sentence, and this is the one that some people thought was passive, but it's not really passive, because in this sentence, the ball hit Tom. Now, maybe Jim was angry and threw the ball at Tom. We don't know. But notice the subject of the sentence is the ball. And the ball is performing the action. The ball hit Tom. If we were to turn this into a passive sentence, it would be Tom was hit by the ball. But now notice this last sentence. It is passive, because Tom here is the subject. But notice, he is not the one performing the action. The rest of the sentence talks about what was done to Tom. Now, by the ball is a prepositional phrase. Let's just leave that off for a second, because we don't really need that for the sentence to make sense grammatically. Tom was hit right there is a complete sentence. And it's a passive sentence, because the essential construction of the sentence does not tell us who hit Tom. Was Tom hit by... was it a car that hit Tom? Was it Jim that hit Tom? Was it the ball that hit Tom? We don't know. We just know that Tom was hit. We see Tom here as being passive. He is not performing the action. Rather, the action is being performed to him. And we need the prepositional phrase, by the ball, to know who the acting subject is. Okay, so that's passive voice. We're going to see how Greek makes passive voice shortly, but I need you to know what passive voice is first. Okay, here's the sentence that got most people confused, and it was confusing. This was not easy. And about half of you got it, half of you missed it. And but some of you who missed it were guessing in the right direction, which was encouraging. So this wasn't a complete, unless half of you were lucky guessers, it wasn't a complete, loss in terms of your understanding here. So we need to write the sentence. We need to figure out which one of these translations is a legitimate translation of the English sentence here. Jesus, who knows the Father, said, "Whoever comes to me, I give my life to him." Now, what do we have here? We have Jesus as the subject, then we have this relative clause, and then Jesus says, "Whoever comes to me, I give my life to him." Now, what are these sentences down here? What are the different options that we have? Well, In each case, Jesus is the subject. This is the nominative, so that's all the same. And then we have this phrase, who. This is the relative pronoun. Who, it's in the nominative, knows the Father. Okay, these are the same throughout, so that's not going to be a difference. And this is how you would say Jesus, who knows the Father. This is the relative phrase there. And do I have? Here's the relative pronouns. So this is, notice, nominative, singular, masculine is the relative pronoun because Jesus. Because the way it functions here in the sentence is this would be nominative. Who knows the Father? Think of this as like a mini sentence here, and the who is the acting subject. Who knows the Father? And so the relative pronoun who here is going to be in the nominative because it is the one that's performing the action of knowing, and the Father here is accusative. Now, this Jesus, who knows the Father, said. And this is a little bit awkward of a phrase here at the end, but I did that on purpose to try to make clear what sort of construction I was getting at. Whoever comes to me, I give my life to him. The first one is one of the correct ones, so that's what it actually says. But notice how it differs from some of the other ones. Okay, well, first of all, this phrase here, hoi on, that is how we make, that is how we would say whoever. Notice what this says here. This is in your textbook. When a relative pronoun is combined with on or on, the phrase expresses an indefinite idea. Instead of translating it as who, whom, which, and so forth, the indefinite form, whoever, whomever, whichever. That's the way we translate it. So, because we have the on here, we take that who, and notice that this would be plural, because it's the nominative plural right there. We take that, but with the on, it's not who comes to me, but whoever comes to me. Thus, it's not expressing a definite group of people, but just saying whoever would fall in that category of comers to Jesus. Whoever would come to me, and this is the personal pronoun there in the dative, because it's that to me, that's a dative clause there, so that's dative. Whoever comes to me, and then we have, and by the way, this is wrong because notice, and this is wrong as well, because notice the difference. Here we have a rough breathing mark with the accent, but here we just have the rough breathing mark. And when we just have the rough breathing mark, what we're dealing with, therefore, is not a relative pronoun, but an article. And I have that here, right here. This says right out of your textbook, ha, hey, hoi, hi are all forms of the article. To keep the article and the relative pronoun distinct, remember that the pronoun always has a rough breathing mark and an accent mark. The article only a rough breathing mark. So, remembering that, we see that this one could be right, this one could be right, this one and this one are certainly not right because there's no accent. There's only a rough breathing mark. So this doesn't make sense grammatically. It's the and then this indefinite word here. That doesn't actually work. Okay, so and then we have, this is the same, whoever comes, and we haven't learned this form of the word comes yet, but I gave you that, and they're all the same, so that shouldn't have thrown anybody off. As I said before, this is the dative, and then I give, and of course these are all the same as well. I give, let's see, do I have? then we have, we need to figure out which one says my life. And this is the word suke, life or soul. And here is just the personal pronoun in the genitive. So that's pretty easy, right? We recognize that that's going to be translated as my. I give the life of me. What kind of life? Do I give my dog's life to him, or do I give my friend's life to him? No, I give the life of me. I give my life to him. So this restricts the meaning of the head noun, life. So we understand that. We've learned that a while ago. We're kind of familiar with that. Now, what about this one? Well, this one's wrong. We already know because of the relative pronoun. What about this one here? I give the life, the me. Now, as I said before, this one's right. It turns out that this one is right as well. And it's right because this construction here, the life, or hain, psukain, tain, psukain, tain, emain. This is another way to say my life. So this is my life, and this here is also translated my life. Because remember, what we're dealing with here is an adjective. Here, this is a personal pronoun in the genitive, right here. But here, what we're dealing with is an adjective. And I've showed you this before, but this is the first person singular possessive adjective. And the one that we need is right here. It's feminine accusative singular because it modifies psukain that is also feminine accusative and singular. So the you think, well, wait a minute, why is the word that gets translated my when it's referring to Jesus feminine? Well, it's because this my is not really modifying Jesus. It's not going back to Jesus. It's going back, well, it is in terms of the meaning of the sentence, but syntactically, it's going back to psuke, and it's qualifying the meaning of psuke. And it's an adjectival construction. We don't have anything like that in English. The only way to say my life in English is with a personal pronoun. But here we have this first person adjective that is doing the same thing. I think this is the second or third time I've put this in one of the translations. And I really want you to see this. I'm doing that in part because a couple times it messed me up when I was going along translating something in Greek, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, what's this word doing here? And it's not used that often, but it's used enough that if you don't learn it, it'll mess you up sometimes. So I really want you to learn that and recognize there's two different ways to make that genitival construction, the my construction. And it could also be your or their, because there's a way that this is the first person one, but there's another second person one as well. So I want you to get that. So the correct answer turns out to be epsilon. Do you like the Greek letters here? I thought that would help you. Alpha and gamma, chi. That's the correct answer because both this one and this one are correct. Again, a number of people have missed that, but that's okay. I'm not discouraged that about half of you missed it. I'm encouraged that half of you got it right, and those who didn't get it right were really guessing in. Hopefully, you're not just completely guessing, but you were falling in the right direction, and that's good. I think what I'm going to do in terms of just scoring this quiz, I made this worth 30 points. I'm going to cut down the number of points that it was worth, so a wrong answer is not going to mess you up that much. But those who got it right, I'm going to add more points to it as well. I'm not really too concerned about the scoring of the quizzes because they're not worth as much compared to the midterm and the final. And I really want you to see these as, I want you to try your best on each one, but they're for the purpose of seeing how much you know and helping you grow more. But nevertheless, I do want to reward those who did get it right. And I was very encouraged that half of you did, and that's good. Okay. Next one. Similar idea. Question, you need to figure out which of the Greek sentences is the best translation for some of the disciples said, "Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" This phrase, "Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven," comes straight out of Scripture. I just copied it directly. And all of these things you should have known. Zone was, you learned about greatest. You learned that construction in your textbook, so that was there. The thing you really needed to look out for are these indefinite pronouns here. So let's see which ones are right, which ones are wrong. Turns out this is the only correct one. So some of the disciples. Well, so remember that this pronoun is it differs whether it's an interrogative or an indefinite pronoun based upon where the accent is. So here's the chart. The indefinite pronouns have either no accent at all or the accent is at the end of the word. The interrogative pronouns always have an accent and it's always at the beginning of the word. I think the way I remember that is sometimes in a sentence, if it's an interrogative sentence, you're asking a question, you might stress the who. Like if you go to eat the food in the refrigerator that you saved for lunch and it's not there, you might say, "Who ate my food?" And the stress would be, "Who ate my food?" You would put stress on it. Well, okay, the accent mark is sort of like putting stress on that. It's right at the beginning of the word. If that helps remember it, then that's great. If not, then just forget that. But you need to realize that the interrogative pronoun that's going to ask a question, who, what, why, and all that, the interrogative words have the accent at the beginning, where if it's indefinite and it's going to be some, anyone, and you translate it in an indefinite way, it does not have the accent. That's what you need to know in order to get this sentence correct. So here we have, if we're doing some of the disciples, we need not the interrogative pronoun, we need the indefinite pronoun, which means it's going to either have no accent or accent at the end. And right away we see, well, this qualifies. This does not qualify. This is going to say, who of the disciples said. It's going to ask a question. Who of the disciples said? And notice this does not ask a question. The question actually comes here. So this one doesn't make sense. B's out. Well, the rest of them do work. They all have the accent at the end. But gamma here, it's different because it's not the same relative pronoun. Relative pronoun is not in the same case as the others. If you notice, this relative pronoun is in the genitive case. Let's go over to our chart. And we notice that the relative pronoun here, all of the other ones are in the nominative case, and even the interrogative one I threw in there to help you discern these, it was in the nominative case. But for, what was the letter again? Gamma here, it's in the genitive case. So we have to remember that we don't use word order, we use the cases to understand the meaning. In gamma here, the subject is the disciples, and then the genitive is this relative pronoun that could be, or indefinite pronoun that could be translated some. So the translation of this sentence would be something like, the disciples of some said. See how that's a very different meaning? You have to put the disciples as the subject here, and then this indefinite pronoun has to then turn into the genitive. So we end up with the disciples of some said, which doesn't really make any sense. I suppose you might be able to figure out a sentence construction where you have that, but that would be kind of hard to do. The correct answer has to, notice here, some is the subject. Of the disciples is the genitival phrase that restricts the meaning of the head noun. Some of what? Some of the fish? Some of the teachers? Some of the Pharisees? No, some of the disciples, which is really bad because the disciples should not be asking that sort of question when it was talking about themselves. Who among us is going to be the greatest? So you got to pay attention to the case when you're dealing with the relative pronoun. Okay, so now we have alpha and delta both look like they could work, except in this one was perhaps a little bit too tricky, but I will give partial credit for A and for alpha and delta here, because notice what I did here. Notice how N is different. Actually, in this case, it's hen, because what do you have? You have the rough breathing mark here, where in all the other ones you had a smooth breathing mark, which means that this is not the word in. It's not. It's the word one, which in this context makes no sense in the world. So this one's wrong because the rough breathing mark was a rough breathing mark instead of a smooth breathing mark. Notice here in your vocabulary words, to say one, it's Haze, Mia, Hen. And it even stresses a rough breathing mark because this could be construed with ace, meaning the preposition into, but it's not. It means one. Numerous times I've been translating Greek and been thrown off by that. And I'm like, wait, what in the world is a preposition doing there? Oh, it's not a preposition, it's a numeral. And I've missed that. So I want to put that there to help you not make that same mistake in order to get it. So that said, encouraged again how you guys are doing. This was not an easy quiz. Hopefully using your book allowed you to go back and forth and look at some things. My hope is that process of going back to the text and wrestling through it actually reinforced it so that you do it better in the end. That's the goal. The goal here is learning. In the future, we might have more of these more difficult but open book quizzes, but I'll mix that up with some of them where I just want you to have the thing memorized. Okay, well, I'm going to try to get you some more work up there. Tomorrow we'll have that's Wednesday, you'll have a vocabulary quiz and translation. I spend many hours trying to prepare lectures, and then also many hours fighting with the internet in order to get them up. So I'm working as fast as I can to get the material up there for you, and I know that you guys are also working very hard to do it. So appreciate your patience with me, as various times I've said I'll have something ready to go, and then lo and behold, I don't have internet or something else comes up and it takes a lot longer. But please let me know if there's something that comes up where you're out of power or you're out of data or something like that, and you can't finish an assignment. Please let me know. I'll be happy to extend things that way. Just let me know ahead of time so that don't let me know after the fact. Let me know ahead of time. Okay, I'll look forward to hearing from you.